You know the sound. You're just sitting at a stoplight, minding your own business, and then you hear it. That quiet, rhythmic tick, tick, tick coming from under the hood. It's a noise that can send a jolt of pure anxiety through any car owner. Well, today, we're going to demystify that sound and turn that anxiety into action.
Right? It's so unsettling because you just don't know what it is. Is it something minor, or is it the sound of your bank account about to empty itself? That uncertainty, that's exactly what we're going to clear up today.
So I want you to think of this as a decoding mission. That ticking sound isn't just noise. It's a message. Your engine is trying to tell you something, and we're about to become detectives and figure out exactly what it's saying.
And every good detective knows you start with one critical question. Here's ours. Does that ticking sound get faster when you press the gas and the engine revs up, or does it only get faster when the car itself starts moving down the road? The answer to that is your first major clue. See, this one little test is a huge fork in the road. If you're parked, and the ticking speeds up as you rev the engine, bingo, the problem is almost certainly in the engine. But if it only changes as you physically drive faster, you're probably looking at something totally different, like a rock stuck in your tire tread or a bad CV axle. For our investigation, we're following that first clue. We're focusing on the ticks that are tied to your engine's RPM. All right, detective, we've narrowed our search area to the engine. So, where do we start? We start with the absolute most common cause. And luckily, it's also the easiest thing in the world for you to check yourself. You heard that right. The number one top-of-the-charts reason for engine ticking is simply low engine oil. Without enough oil to properly lubricate everything, the metal parts at the top of your engine, what we call the valve train, they start clattering against each other, and that's the ticking you hear. It's why the very first thing you always do is check that dipstick. And here's the right way to do it, just to be sure. First, make sure your car is parked on flat, level ground. Then, pull the dipstick out, wipe it completely clean with a rag, and push it all the way back in. Now pull it out again. That's your true reading. If the oil line is below the full mark, just add a bit of the correct oil type for your car. Seriously, this 5-minute check could solve the entire mystery. But what if you check the oil and it's perfectly fine? Well, then our investigation gets a little deeper. It's time to bring in the usual lineup of suspects. Okay, suspect number 1, an exhaust manifold leak. All this means is that there's a tiny crack or a bad seal right where the exhaust bolts to your engine. So with every little explosion in the cylinder, a tiny puff of exhaust gas escapes, making a sharp ticking sound. Now, here are the telltale signs for this one. First, the ticking almost always gets louder and faster when you're accelerating, because you're pushing more exhaust gas out. And second, it's often way more noticeable when the engine is cold. Once things heat up, the metal actually expands and can sometimes partially seal up the leak, making it quieter. Next up in the lineup is the valve train itself. These are all the little moving parts, lifters, rockers, you name it, that act like the engine's lungs, letting air in and exhaust out. They move incredibly fast, and if one of those components gets sticky from dirty oil or just wears out, it can create a really distinct rhythmic ticking sound. You'll usually hear this sound coming very clearly from the top part of the engine. You know, sometimes a simple oil change with some fresh, clean oil can actually free up a sticky part and make the noise go away. But if a part is actually worn out, that's a job for a mechanic to physically get in there and replace it. Now for a tricky one, your fuel injectors. Here's the thing, they are supposed to tick. It's totally normal. They make a sound kind of like a quiet sewing machine as they open and close. The problem is when one of them starts ticking way louder than the others, creating a sharp tap, tap, tap that you can really pick out from the rest. That's a red flag. And the biggest clue for a bad injector, your check engine light comes on and you get a misfire code, like this P0301, which specifically points to a problem in cylinder number 1. The injector isn't just noisy anymore, it's actually hurting performance. You could try a good fuel system cleaner first, but it might need to be professionally cleaned or even replaced. All right, we've gone through the evidence, we've looked at the main suspects. So what's the verdict? What do you actually do with all this info? Let's lay out a clear plan of action. Think of this table as your quick reference guide. It connects the suspect with its sound clue and tells you the very first thing you should do. If you hear a general ticking noise, start with the oil. If it gets louder when you hit the gas, start looking for an exhaust leak. See, it's a really logical way to approach the problem. And this right here might be the most important part of all. knowing what you can do and when it's time to call in the pros. Checking your oil? Absolutely, do that. Trying to listen and pinpoint where the noise is coming from? For sure. But if the simple stuff doesn't fix it, if you think it's a deeper issue, or especially if that check engine light is staring you in the face, it's time. Make the call.
And I want this to really sink in. That ticking sound, it isn't just an annoying little noise, it's a warning sign. It's your car's way of raising its hand and saying, hey, I need some attention over here. And catching it early can be the difference between a $100 fix and a $1,000 nightmare. So, from now on, when you hear that sound, you're not going to feel that jolt of anxiety. You're going to feel prepared. You know the clues to look for, you know the first steps to take, you're ready. The only question left is, are you ready to listen?